the Department of Justice will try to force Google to sell Chrome, ban default search deals, and license data for 10 years. Also, Chrome OS might become Android. So they've submitted their recommended remedies to Judge Amit Mehta, who ruled that Google illegally maintains a monopoly on search back in August. And these are the recommended remedies. So selling their Chrome web browser, the DOJ views it as a key component of Google's search monopoly, with approximately 65% browser share across all platforms, with Chromium-based browsers accounting for nearly 80% of the market. However, I would push back a little bit on clumping other Chromium-based browsers in with the Chrome monopoly.
That's not really their fault.
Well, it is and it isn't. The dominance of Chrome is what's making a Chromium basis so important for maintaining compatibility with the rest of the web. And even though Google does not single-handedly develop another Chromium-based browser, they can certainly shove certain they can certainly shove certain ideas along and make them difficult to go against, even though it is possible in some cases.
They can attempt to manifest their own optimal business environment.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah,
I like that. That's good. That's good.
Thank you.
So anyway, I think that the numbers I'm just saying, I think the number's a little fuzzy.
Yeah.
It's clearly not
For sure.
65%, but I also don't think it's 80%.
Quite 80%. Yeah.
No matter which one of them it is, though, let's be real. That is a dominant position, and it is one that Google has painstakingly, meticulously created and used to their advantage. This is kind of wild. The next recommendation is banning Google from entering into default search deals, which amount to $26 billion annually and might end up hurting Mozilla more than it does Google.
Brutally.
Yeah, to be clear, a lot of that $26 billion is going to Apple, not to Mozilla. But, man, this one, I have kind of mixed feelings on. On the one hand, these default search deals are a huge part of why we all tolerate Google search, because it's just there when we open up our browser. With that said, if that worked, then more people would use Bing, but... I mean,
I understand
Edge
that
is still default in Windows, and Bing is definitely still default in Edge. If the product was that bad, I guess people would be willing to switch off of it. Or maybe that's different platform by platform. I mean, the whole switching to iOS experience has definitely opened my eyes to how intuitive doesn't mean intuitive. It just means whatever arcane ridiculousness you've personally gotten used to, right? And that is true. That's true across multiple platforms. I mean, how is it intuitive to press Control-Alt-Delete to access some kind of system menu? It's not.
Just
That's not
something
intuitive.
You've been doing for a long time.
Exactly. So
intuitive to you specifically.
Exactly. So depending on the platform, you might find users more or less malleable. And it's pretty well established that behavior across iOS and Android users is different. For example, I remember like years ago, this used to get talked about a lot more. And maybe it's because there was more transparency into the numbers. I actually don't know why nobody talks about it anymore. But I remember it would make headlines sort of like cyclically that Apple users spend way more money. On the App Store.
Yeah, that used to be super common to be talked about. I think that was often when there was notable, or more notable, I would say, differences between the apps. Like, I remember people used to be really frustrated because Android users had lower image quality on Instagram back in the day.
Yeah, that was...
Like, little things like that were much more discernible. It was you generally had a worse experience on Android because Android users were seen as like cheap and not worth focusing on development.
Yeah, and they were.
Yeah, to be honest.
So like
measurably.
That was like very measurably. If you don't remember this, it was like
a huge topic
and like a many times multiplier. It wasn't like the average Android user spends 9% less on apps compared to the average Apple user. And this was more of a thing back, I would imagine, more of a thing back when like pretty much every app was like kind of useless unless you spent like $2 or $3. Like that was what a paid app was back in the day. It wasn't so much subscription-based services.
In 2024, the average iPhone user spends $12.77 per app. By comparison, the average Android user spends $6.19 per app.
So it's still double.
Still double.
Wow. Okay.
And as far as my understanding goes, it was like a much bigger gap in the past, but I don't know 100% right now.
I don't know if what Parkour is saying here is true, but if funny if true, Snapchat on Android was apparently just a screenshot of the camera compared to iOS directly using the camera. It wouldn't really surprise me that much.
It works.
I mean, yeah. And do you really need that kind of fidelity in a dick pic? I mean, I'm just asking questions.
You know, if you have lower fidelity, you might gain a pixel here or there.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that the whole point of Snapchat? Low fidelity. Get it? Different kinds of fidelity. See, that's good.
I got it. That was pretty good.
I'm surprisingly funny this early in the morning.
That was really good.
I'm actually giving myself one of these.
That
was not bad. What's her nuts? Ashley Madison just released their most non-monogamous cities in Canada list.
Oh no.
Yeah, Vancouver's very low.
Really?
Vancouver's very low non-monogamy. So I mean, to be clear, I'm not saying that's a goal. I'm just there's all kinds of there's like, you know, ethical non-monogamy.
Yeah, but isn't that site specifically based on cheating?
I'm not judging you if you're in a polycule.
I think that site is like for cheating though.
Well,
there's a big difference.
I mean, is any site for anything, really, Luke? I mean, is Floatplane for early access to
not anymore.
Well,
although
very occasionally there are things. I was actually hinting at something.
Oh, were you?
What? Yeah.
Look what I found.
Oh, wow.
Well, I didn't find it. Emma put it in my luggage, and then I found it that way. But I found a relic.
Wow, that is...
not even that many people in the audience are even going to know what that is.
Now, that's a name I've not heard in a long time.
Yeah.
A long time.
I pulled that out of my luggage and was like, what? What is this?
Yeah.
So apparently I lost the shirt, but I still have the toque. So
nice.
That's cool. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I still have the shirt kicking around somewhere.
Yeah.
But it's not my go-to pajama shirt anymore. It was for a long time. Now it's my Jibo shirt.
Yeah.
Another name that hasn't stood the test of time. What on earth were we supposed to be talking about? Oh, right. Google.
Sure.
They also are recommending that Google be required to license its search index data to competitors for 10 years. So this is the kind of like,
whoa,
not slap on the wrist, but actual like, no, you guys need to not behave like this again. And you guys need to take active steps to prop up your competitors to make up for the anti-competitive practices that you guys have engaged in. And I got to tell you, already, it's like we're not even all the way through the list here. Already, I'm looking at this going, I have no idea what's going to happen in January. Because on the one hand, I think we've both been pretty happy to see the US actually finally engage in
Lena Khan,
any antitrust investigations and remediation. But I have no idea whether that will or won't continue with the next administration, because I think that everyone on both sides of the political spectrum can agree that it is likely to be unpredictable.
Yeah, I know a pretty strong theory around this whole, like, you're going to have to sell Chrome thing is that Google's probable defense is going to be to delay as much as possible and try again with the new administration.
The thing with the new administration, though, is I don't think they have any particular love for Google in general.
General reply to that theory is that big tech right now is kind of at odds with both sides.
Which is kind of a funny thing because a lot of the a lot of the transgressions that both sides are kind of mad at big tech about are very different from each other. Like they're sort of mad for completely different reasons.
Yeah.
And it's hard to feel bad for, the tech billionaires that have kind of, sold us up the river over and over and over again over the last couple of decades. But I do kind of feel like at this point, now that everything's so far gone that they just are monopolies, whether they, kind of like it or not. And to be clear, you do not have to be the mono in monopoly is not actually, like strictly speaking, necessary, right? You can just be in a abusively dominant position. You don't actually just have to be a monopoly to fall afoul of antitrust regulations.
If you completely control everything.
Yeah. Or you don't even, or even,
close to it.
or collude with a handful of other parties to
Light
control
bulbs.
things. Yeah,
Veritasium has an amazing video on that.
so there are some very, very there are some very non-monopolists cities in Canada. Sorry, wait, what are we talking about? The point is just that everyone's kind of mad at them and looking for an excuse to kind of punish them. But the remediation that another administration might ask for might be really different.
Yes.
I guess is what I would worry about.
So maybe roll the dice again, kind of thinking this is probably one of the worst they could have got, and then hoping for better. I don't know.
Yeah.
I do think just jumping back to it a little bit, because I saw some comments about this in the Flowplane chat when we were talking about it, but the 26 billion in search deals hurting, it's going to hurt Apple, but
well, not
whatever.
really. Apple will be fine.
Yeah, exactly. It's really like the big damage that we're probably going to feel is to Mozilla. They're declining in usership effectively constantly.
Oh, thanks, Dan. I wasn't actually...
I think...
Okay, I want to clarify something really quick. That's not my gesture for fill my water. I was checking if there was water in it. The optics of that were not great.
I didn't even notice. That's pretty funny. But yeah, so like honestly, this shakeup, okay, significantly less cash in the bank. I suspect it might immediately hurt Mozilla in the ability to employ people department, things like that. As far as my understanding goes, they actually had layoffs recently. I suspect that may continue if this happens. But a significant shakeup in the browser market could result in a user base increase, an actual one.
Yeah, we can hope.
That could result in Firefox actually having long legs instead of this just constant decline to eventual irrelevance, which they've been kind of on the path of. I enjoy Firefox. I use Firefox daily in my personal life. Firefox has been my mobile browser actually the entire time I've ever had an Android phone, since the very beginning of having an Android phone.
It's going to be so much less lucrative for Firefox to even have users if they aren't benefiting from that Google default search deal.
Yeah. Bing could swoop in. It's not a ban of there being default search deals. It's just a ban of there being, Google
ones.
It reduces the competition.
Yeah, who's the competition? Why would Microsoft have to pay a ton of money for it? And if I'm Microsoft and I'm watching this go down for Google, I'm like,
I don't know if I want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
But I mean, that's how this is supposed to work, right? Like these remedies are not supposed to be, here's a $1 billion fine. It's like, cost of doing business. They're supposed to be like, oh crap, everyone else looking at this going, holy crap, we really should not do that. We should not do that. People are talking about like DuckDuckGo. The issue is that DuckDuckGo doesn't have any money. Like they have money, but they don't have like billions of dollars a year to use our search engine money. Otherwise, they would just be doing it already.
Autark, I'm guessing, in Floatplane chat said, since 2019, Mozilla has lost 30 million monthly average users.
Yikes.
Yeah. So they've been on a
They've lost like almost an entire Canada of users.
Eventually, they're not going to have anything to take this money from anyways.
Right.
Like there will be nothing for Google to have bought from them. So like, I don't know. I'm hoping that a reroll of the dice, a shake-up, something like that, might give them a chance. It's going to hurt a lot in the short term because that money's just going to disappear.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Hopefully something can happen out of this that works out.
I think the real question, Luke, is what have you been doing to help Mozilla? It's not like there aren't things you could do. Using it personally, it's not enough.
We put on
I mean,
the
why
lab
don't you
site,
make it?
we put on the lab site that it works best in Firefox.
Why don't you make it so that float
hidden by
plane
the
can
camera.
only be accessed with Firefox? Since they're all using Firefox anyway, it wouldn't be a problem.
That is a good call. We probably should have done that. Yeah. I can look towards doing that in the future.
Do you have your phone in your pocket? Is it me? I think it's this iPhone. I think the iPhone is a lot worse in terms of interference.
Because I've kept my phone over there since before you brought the iPhone.
Yeah,
it wasn't
okay.
causing an issue. Unless it got damaged and now it's
For those
doing
missing context, we've done some polls, and the float plane audience
swears up and down
that they are using Firefox, but we have actual like site access statistics, and they don't.
Yeah, people have pointed out that you can like spoof it so that it reports that you're using Chrome for like weird compatibility recent things.
I sincerely doubt that percentage of people are spoofing it. Sincerely.
That's like definitely not a thing.
All right.
Yeah.
More remediations. Not selling Android, but restricting it from favoring Google search. Now, because this is focused on search and not, webmail or web documents or whatever the case may be, it sounds like they could still have default Google apps. Mm-hmm. But I do wonder if this all goes through, if this all went through, if Google would look at a lot of their current practices and go, hey, how do we avoid any more of this?
Yeah.
Restricting Android from favoring Google search, that is, like, what would that look like? So instead of that default Google search bar, like I would be prompted when I
suspect on phone setup, or maybe with an update now one time and then phone setup in the future, you would be prompted to choose your default search, and there would probably be like, your
and it would have to be randomized,
your top 5 and then other, and it would probably, the list would probably have to be randomized. Yeah.
Wow. And it would involve undoing Google's $2 billion investment in AI startup Anthropic. That would be a big bummer for Anthropic.
Wait, really? Why? No. Like what I'm saying, not that it would be I understand why it would be a big bummer for them. I'm wondering why they have to do this.
I don't know a ton about Anthropic and that investment, but what I would guess is that Anthropic is super focused on search. But I'm just guessing. I'm completely guessing. Google has responded, calling the DOJ's proposal staggering, wildly overbroad, and part of a radical interventionist agenda that would harm Americans and break a range of Google products. In an example of how excruciatingly horrible this would be, Google said that the proposal, and this is a quote, would literally require us to install not one, but 2 separate choice screens before you could access Google search on a Pixel phone you bought. And the design of these choice screens would have to be approved by the technical committee. And that's just a small part of it. We wish we were making this up. Is that an actual quote? That's from Google's blog. Are they for real right now? This is, oh my goodness. Guys, yeah. A device setup wizard is a thing, which you already have, by the way.
This is actually very interesting because this is such an early WAN show. We have a bunch of EU viewers, and apparently this is like already a thing for them.
That makes sense.
Dracorex said, in the EU, you already get to choose the search engine on Android. Technically, they said, as far as I know, at the end of that.
This is hilarious.
Yeah, people are saying, yes, we have that already. Yeah. So, like, what do you even mean? You already did it for them.
And it's worth noting that in the EU, Android actually maintains better market share than it does in the US. So clearly that ain't the variable that is affecting that.
So annoying.
Freaking
what
wild.
An annoying thing to say. I hope they lose just because of that.
Can you imagine sitting at Google and thinking that typing that is a good idea. Like, how did that?
At a certain point, you wonder if like the person who wrote it is like, yeah, let's torpedo ourselves a little bit, because like that's the worst. I don't know.
We wish we were making this up. Are you kidding me? Hold on. You know what? No, my source thing. Oh my God.
Like, is that poking fun at yourself?
This is literally at blog.google. I didn't even believe it. Like, I trust Riley, okay? And he had the citation in there. So I saw the citation. I went, I don't need to click through to this. But I was like, no, the people deserve for me to actually click through to the Google blog.
Yeah.
And see that this is literally.
We wish we were making this up.
I wish I was making this up.
We already did this in the EU, so really we don't have to do any of this at all, but we wish we were making this up. I've had multiple conversations with multiple people.
Good people, strong people.
The best people.
Tears streaming down their eyes.
The Wendellist of people. About the slow death of just Google in general. Like, they suck. Like, if we're looking at the landscape of like modern, web Silicon Valley style companies, what have they done in the last long time other than just like kill stuff and not innovate?
Let me think. What have they done? Okay, does it count as a thing they've done if they ultimately killed it?
No.
Okay, that doesn't count.
No.
Okay, hold on, thinking. Google Fiber. Oh, wait, no, hold on.
And that's old
Stadia.
At this point.
Wait, no.
This is dead.
Okay, hold on. There's got to be something.
Apparently, the EU has had the choice screen on Android since 2019.
Actually, okay. YouTube has done some pretty cool stuff.
YouTube is the only thing I've been able to think of that has had positive innovation, and it has also had really junky negative innovation.
Yes, this is true. I would say, I was gonna say that finding stuff to buy through Google search.
And if we're talking about monopolies,
is better. Like the interface is better, but all the sponsored stuff that gunks up the results is not better. So I take that one back. Android is better than ever.
Yeah, but like nothing crazy has changed in like.
It's better than ever though. It's like
sure.
Well, I'm looking.
Google
you
Workspace,
asked me to find stuff,
Google
so when I
Workspace.
find stuff, you don't get to be like, fair.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Google Workspace has stood still for a super long time. They don't even have their own realistic chat. I know they have chats, which they swear to me that they use internally, and I don't believe it.
Google Maps. Google Maps.
Maybe they do, but they also use other things, I bet.
Maybe other people have had access to this for a long time, but my Android Auto interface for Google Maps finally allows me to report problems. Like if I see police, I can report it in Google Maps. I mean, they acquired Waze, 10 years ago? So it's understandable. It took them a little while to port that functionality over. Someone says they've had that in Maps for a long time. I don't know, man. It did not show up into my interface until like a couple weeks ago, which was the reason that I exclusively use Waze, even though Waze's search is terrible. Like my own badminton center doesn't show up in Waze search. And I don't know why, because it's on Google Maps. Yeah. So like they're literally owned by the same company. I thought that's the point of being a monopoly. Like the actual point. But anyway,
on basically everything, they've stood still. They have some people at the company that are obviously still doing good work. Like they have their AI researchers wrote the white paper on like what is breaking the world right now. But then they have like one of the worst ones in Gemini because they didn't capitalize on it, because they don't seem to be able to do anything. And the reason why I got onto this topic is because of we wish we were making this up. Almost feels like they're pointing at themselves, because the design of those choice screens would have to be approved by the technical committee. That part is like, okay.
Yeah, because we can't trust you to do it on your own.
Based
obviously.
on your own website and documentation, you already did it. So like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, that looks fine.
Yeah, it does. It looks completely fine. And they literally already did it.
Yeah, that looks fine.
So like,
let's just do that.
What are you talking about? make things again. Like, Google was such a sick company. I really liked Google. I really like Google Workspace. I can't tell what's different in Google Workspace.
I can
from
tell you cool
8
stuff.
years ago.
I can tell you cool stuff they've done.
Okay.
They have those like hardware decoding cards for video. Hardware video decoding cards. Those are cool.
When did they make those?
I don't know, like a while ago, but they like are like working on them and stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
So they
That's not really for users though. We get the result of it.
yeah. Look, I have said before, and I maintain that YouTube is one of the wonders of the world.
It is.
Like I think if we didn't have YouTube anymore, we would look back on the time that we had YouTube, and we would go,
The internet would be different.
good Lord, like the knowledge,
The library
the
of
sharing of
Alexandria
human
was burned
experience.
down.
I really do feel like it would be
for
a
sure.
loss.
Yeah.
Maybe not quite on that level because of how little sort of written knowledge there was in the world at that time, right? But I think that given even more time and given even more buildup
For sure.
of collective knowledge and
I think we're already
experience,
there, but
I think you could make the argument. I just didn't want to make such a strong statement. But no, I think it would be like that, losing something of that magnitude at this time.
one of the big things with YouTube is when you'll find videos on there that are like from 13 years ago, and it's like,
Potato.
you know, but it's when people were archiving footage from like pre-internet era.
Yeah.
So it's not only is it from 13 years ago, it's actually from way before that.
Yep. And there's literally nowhere else to access it
Yeah.
because on YouTube, any Yahoo, it's kind of a joke because
That's pretty good.
yeah, can upload anything they want, and it just is there and is just documented. That is. I'm not going to call it a public service because they're clearly a for-profit company and they profit from it with your data and your attention to ads and your premium subscriptions and all of those things. But to lose it would be catastrophic, I think, at this point.
Yeah, but yeah, when's the last time they launched a Gmail? You know? Like when they launched Gmail, they launched it on April Fool's almost as like a joke and then just took over the world. Like they don't do stuff like that anymore. Google Workspace, again, hasn't moved at all. Gemini,
I'd say.
yeah, someone's phone is.
Oh, sorry, that's me.
Gemini
I'd say Docs is
notably behind.
is
Docs is
noticeably
hasn't
better than
moved
it used to
at
be.
all, though.
As someone who uses it every day, it's a lot better than it was 5 years ago. I'll tell you that. It's definitely better.
What's changed?
In the last 5 years specifically, I don't know, but just the interface is just always like getting a little better. It's always getting a little better.
Okay.
There's still things
that's
that are
probably one of those things where I can't imagine it, but if I saw a version from
Yeah.
5 years ago, it's probably changed subtly over
there's
time.
still things that are super obnoxious. Like once a document is pressing return is 2 spaces, it's like damn near impossible to get it to stop doing that for some reason. Like you can go in, you can tell it single spacing, you can tell it whatever you want. But if you like paste something in that has that inherent formatting in it already, for some reason, it just like breaks it forever as far as I can tell. I'm sure there is a way around it, but it is not intuitive to a Word user. A long-time Word user.
Someone in full page chat, Tim, said, come on, you know more than anyone that small backend changes are so huge and you don't realize them unless you look at them side by side.
Well,
I know that.
But this is from a consumer standpoint.
Yeah,
Give me something as a consumer. Backend changes smooth out your infrastructure and make managing it easier. And they might even improve responsiveness here and there. But for the most part, every time that I've seen Google tell me that a backend change is supposed to make my user experience better, it has made it literally worse.
I'm sure it happens a bunch of times without them really communicating to you. This is totally a thing. It's super annoying being on a team when you have to work on stuff that users
The most
don't notice.
egregious example of this is the analytics dashboard, which used to be extremely snappy, except for the occasional time that it wasn't. And now, of course it's behaving well right now.
Yeah.
Now it is, for the most part, a piece of garbage. It's actually doing really well right now. But I could talk for a long time about how much I hate the new analytics dashboard. And it's not even new. It's like 7 years old at this point, but I can't stand it.
I can't think of anything new that I use from from Google, and most of the old things that I use from Google are becoming harder and harder to justify over time due to price increases from, getting my YouTube music from my premium subscription that just went up by 60% because they're trying to shoehorn in AI features that are really expensive.
Dude.
So they're cranking the price up.
Just give me Google Play Music back.
Yeah.
It was actually better. Like the thing that the one feature I cared about, the reason that I spent a bunch of money on Sonos speakers and the reason that I got a Google Play Music subscription was because from my music app, I could just click cast, like just the cast button, like the Chromecast cast button.
Yeah.
I could just click the cast button and then pick my speakers, and the integration was perfect and flawless, and I never had to touch that piece of shit Sonos app. And now that it's like so bad that like their CEO had to apologize, I feel so validated in that sort of that decision I made to completely avoid it. Also, oh my God, I don't know when this happened, but again, back to Android Auto for a second here.
Yeah.
I can't search in my YouTube Music app. Like I have to, like I can voice search, not in the app. Like I can be like, I don't know, play Justin Bieber or whatever, right? Like I can do that. But if I'm like using the interface, there's no search, and the browse is super hamstrung. And what's really wild is there's no start radio button in it anymore. And that is literally like how I use my music app. Is like I find a song that I'm kind of in the mood for, and then I click start radio. Yeah. Because I kind of want to listen to stuff like that for a bit.
That type of song, yeah.
And that start radio button is no longer there in the player for me. And I see a lot of people, when I was talking about maps, saying like, oh yeah, mine has this, mine has that. It's all over the place though. The fact that I'm not saying you don't have it. And you guys might even have a start radio button. I have no idea. But I don't. And it is very annoying. Very annoying. Okay, no one's actually disagreeing with this one. So I guess, yeah, it's apparently still bad. But yeah, just bury the hatchet with Sonos and just make it work again, please. Please.
Yeah. I don't know. I just I've heard a lot of stuff about how, and who knows what's true and what isn't true, but I've heard a lot of stuff about how things work inside of Google. Apparently, the best way to get promoted was for a long time was to like champion a project to launch. Yeah. But then you would just get promoted after it launched. So that project would like lose its leader, stagnate, and then get closed down. So it was just this like farm for junk for a long time. So at the beginning, they were making new good things rapidly. And then they saw new good things coming out rapidly as a good thing for the business. So let's incentivize that and promote people that do that. But then the people inside that just wanted promotions and money were abandoning all their projects. So they were making new good things and getting rid of them rapidly for many, many years. And then now they just don't seem to really do anything.
Cubes the Gamer has one, RCS.
Yeah.
And that wasn't just a matter of like developing it. That was like launching and maintaining for an extended period of time an extremely ultimately effective campaign to get attention from regulators and from
I was saying a big part of that was the lobbying almost more than anything else. I think RCS is a good example. It's crazy to me that there is this few examples for a company of 200,000 people.
This is true. This is fair. Google Meet is pretty good these days. I'm just saying, look,
barely matters when people are actively moving away from Google Workspace, because if you want to be on Workspace and you want an actually good chat client, you're using Workspace and Slack, and Workspace and Slack as a combination is quite expensive. In my opinion, Slack is significantly better than Teams. Workspace itself, though, has stagnated so hard that Office 365 seems to have mostly caught up to them, if not at parity. The biggest problem with Office 365 is that Teams is just such a dumpster fire.
It's better than it used to be.
But it's still so bad.
I have fewer stability issues.
You can't schedule messages
Yes, you can.
to group chats that have not existed before.
Yeah, I know.
Why?
Well,
If you attach something to a chat message, you have to wait for it to upload before you click send.
yeah.
Why? In Slack, if I attach something and click send, it just sends once it attaches.
Yeah.
Duh. Like there's so many things that are just holy crap. If you're in a big group chat, it highlights the box for whoever's talking except for you, so you can't tell if your mic's working. Why? Just why? There's so much stuff that's just so confusing.
We need to get a couch on the WAN show set so he can lie on the couch
about
and
Teams. But
Teams therapy.
Teams is going to keep improving because something that Microsoft is quite good at is this just never-ending march.
Yep.
They just keep moving, usually a little bit slower than
Yeah,
everybody
and sometimes
else,
backwards.
but they just keep moving. So eventually Teams will be good enough. You know, there's only so much you can do with a chat client. You're seeing the type of innovation that Slack has been bringing lately, and it's like,
I think we're at feature parity with MSN Messenger now, so the only way to go is upward from here.
We're getting there. But it's going to be really hard for IT teams to justify the cost of having an expensive Google Workspace subscription, especially when they're trying to not give you discounts anymore unless you also buy Gemini, which nobody wants, and then also a very premium, very expensive Slack subscription when you could get all of that under a 365 license or a Lark license or something like that at a massively decreased price with more features.
VDKA makes a very important point here. Until we have a nudge feature, parity with MSN Messenger will not have been achieved.
True.
You are right.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, and I'm sorry I have misspoken. I have besmirched the good name of MSN Messenger, and I will not do it again.
I miss Messenger.
I will not do it again. Okay, what else we got here? Google claims the DOJ should be focusing on revising search distribution agreements instead. Okay. This is interesting. Google isn't the only one who thinks this is a bad idea. Some analysts worry about its feasibility and unintended consequences. For example, it could potentially harm schools that use Chromebooks and disrupt the browser market, which relies heavily on Google's open source Chromium project. Those are both good things.
Some analysts realize that something might happen if this happens.
And like, this is one of those things where it feels a little bit like the housing bubble in Vancouver, where
Not in my backyard.
the bigger the bubble gets, the more hand-wringing there is over doing anything about this because of the economic harm. And it's like,
The
right.
longer you hand wring, the harder the economic harm gets.
But like, if we'd done everything properly, we wouldn't be here in the first place. And the further we allow it to expand, the bigger the explosion when it pops.
Yeah.
Like, yes, there's going to be collateral damage if all of this goes through. There will absolutely be unintended consequences.
For sure.
But the
It's
longer
gonna
we
get hit
wait,
hard.
the worse it gets. The more atrophied every other potential competitor will become because of Google's dominant position.
This is why you shouldn't allow this to happen in the first place, ideally.
Yeah.